Prices worse. Talking about Venezuela once again. To make important things. They removed the 1,000 thing on there called monetary independence. All right, we are live for an RTD News midday check-in. Excited to connect and definitely looking forward to touching on a couple of topics that I think is worth bringing to your attention, and as well as giving you guys a chance to let your voice be heard via the chat. And then tonight, 9:30, we'll open up for the People's Talk Show. So hope everyone's doing well. I'll give it a second for more people to be notified, and hopefully you guys can come in and let me know if everything is flowing smoothly. We'll be short and concise and straight to the point. Share with you some headlines that caught my attention, and keep it moving. Other than that, hope everyone's doing well. Any first-time viewers for community, definitely let me know where you're watching from via the chat. And if you don't mind, for those that might be new, make sure you hit that bell notification so you'll be notified when we do go live. And hopefully the algorithms kick in. That's, it's a maybe, but you never know. But also make sure you click that subscribe button if you're new and trying to just do something a little bit different, shaking up the format or whatnot. So anyway, let's jump right into the headlines. So it looks like I'm not sure if it's more truth telling or just more lies being exposed, or I'm not sure, but everything has an agenda. And just based upon two sources of information, Janet Yellen, Jamie Dimon, both people that are considered insiders that's in the know as to what's really going down. Both of them are, sharing information that I think is worth just highlighting, even though we all know that Janet is lying, as well as Jamie Dimon is, out here, I guess, trying to provide some warning or something like that. So not quite sure, but we all know where we stand and what's underway, especially with the Federal Reserve today beginning the tightening process by allowing some things to roll off their balance sheets. And of course, the last time something of that nature, last time they tried that, we didn't get too far before something broke. And then when it broke, they just, pretty much doubled up the amount of quantitative easing that was needed to just paper over the system. So can we expect the same? Probability is yes. Will they respond the same? It might be 50-50, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So anyway, let me just jump into some headlines real quick and keep it moving. See some more people checking in. Mark, Mia, an alternative. Our time is out. Appreciate you guys. Says, how do they know they opened their apps? All right, so let me jump into some headlines real quick, some things that caught my attention, and then get your thoughts on it as well. Let me close a couple windows here. I got too much stuff open. Let me close some windows here so hopefully I can see things better. Okay, here we go. So let's jump right in. Here is, I guess, something worth talking about, just because everybody in alternative media knew that you couldn't continue to expand the monetary supply and there not be consequences down the line. But it's amazing at this point of the game, June 1st, 2022, that she was allowed to or given the approval to come out and admit that she was wrong in reference to the whole narrative of last year that her and Jerome Powell both jumped on, using the words transitory, basically saying that, their expectations were for nothing severe. And as of right now, the numbers they're giving us are well past what they were expecting. But then again, it's well below what reality is. If you, pretty much check other sources such as John Williams, Saddle Stats, who's, 60, 70, 18% inflation. Of course, depending on what you're looking to purchase, it might be even more. But lying or being exposed, who knows? But I thought this was interesting because the fact that she's was willing to admit that she was wrong lets me know that if she's willing to admit that, then how bad will things really get? And I saw somebody comment out there on Twitter in reference to, Janet Yellen basically admitting that she was wrong. Is the comment was, damn, brace for hyperinflation. Like, if they were wrong about this, if their stats and graphs and all their experts didn't see this coming, as far as what we're experiencing now, imagine what's really around the corner. At the same time, the Federal Reserve, her former colleagues, are also attempting the third part of the great experiment, which is to dial back on their balance sheet holdings, ultimately removing liquidity from the system, which, you can't have a Ponzi scheme unless there's continuation of the same Ponzi nature stuff going. So, yeah, it just spells trouble all the way around. But anyway, Real sweet and simple. I'll just thumb through this headline for those that may not had a chance to dive into it. And so this is obviously her confessing on being, questioned on some things. But it just says Secretary Treasury Janet irked plenty of people with her admission on Tuesday that she was wrong on inflation being transitory. The resounding message from critics on Twitter was for Yellen to resign. And so, I guess once again, this is from Fox News. So, you got the left-right paradigm, the good guy, bad guy narrative. But resigning, I don't think she's going to resign or step down or be required to do so because they have banksters in all positions of the government's financial dealings, not by accident. So, but once again, got caught lying, admitted to it. Nothing will happen. Slap on the wrist. She'll keep moving. We'll move on to the next little crises as always. So, but I think the next one is something worth paying attention to. Just because Jamie Dimon just last week or JPMorgan last week came out saying that the preferred asset class is cryptocurrencies, but then again, they are also sitting on what I believe is the largest silver hoard known to the Western world. But they're basically preparing and bracing for something. And this is nothing new. But when Jamie Dimon comes out and says something about a coming economic hurricane, I just think that plays in to what, alternative media has been talking about for quite some time now. And so for those, let me actually share with you a quick little snippet referring to what Jamie was talking about. Take a listen to this.
Hurricane. Right now it's kind of sunny. Things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way. We just don't know if it's a minor one or Superstorm Sandy or Sandy or Andrew or something like that. And it's you better brace yourself.
You better brace yourself. There's a hurricane, economic hurricane coming ahead. You better brace yourself. So what exactly is he referring to? Of course, this comes on the back of the Federal Reserve looking to reduce or roll off some of the instruments that they've collected over the last years to provide liquidity for the banking sector. And so Jamie Dimon's bank has been a beneficiary of all this extra accommodative policies. And so clearly the orchestrated moves between the central bank and the too big to fail banks is well in play right now. They all know that I guess their capital buffers that they were not required to have 2 years ago has given them, I guess, what they believe a nice cushion for what might be coming. And on top of this, here's another article that I want to share with you referring to what Jamie Dimon and his crew had in mind for the economic hurricane. This was last year. And so it says, Jamie Dimon says JPMorgan is hoarding cash because it's a very good chance inflation is here to stay. So this was reported this was last summer. So June 14th last year, Jamie Dimon was talking about them sitting heavy in cash. And of course, one of the primary reasons cash will be needed for this economic hurricane is coming because there will be a severe repricing of all financial assets. And when I mean severe, I mean like it's my projection that the Federal Reserve may not respond the way they have in typical recessionary type events, just because the banks, central banks, they're working together to pull off a reset. And so I don't see them coming in looking to further expand their balance sheets the way they have in times past, just because this next restructuring or repricing of global assets will give them the cover that they need to roll out the digital representations of currencies, and along with the allowance programs, universal basic income, and all the rationing of food and water and all the things that they're positioning themselves to be as far as lords or overlords officially of the world and over the people. So Jamie Dimon realized there's a fire sale coming. So as of last year, they started collecting capital. They're probably sitting comfortable now on buku billions. But when assets reprice, meaning the housing market, there will be a major correction. Equities markets, major correction. Anything labeled as a hedge will be corrected. And then that leads me to wonder, with Jamie Dimon and crew having the biggest silver hoard, there will be a repricing as well. Now, whether that repricing, will they let the COMEX and all the other paper manipulation tools expire, and then the repricing for metals, gold and silver on their balance sheet, because JPMorgan has a large hoard, will it reprice to where they will then rise to the cream of the crop of banks, because their vaults will be repriced to some numbers that I guess everyone in the stacking community might be excited to see, while all the other illusionary wealth it gets repriced and wiped away, therefore providing JPMorgan that much more buying power with their cash hoard on one side as well as their metal hoard, putting them in a very good position to be the bank of all banks when this hurricane comes through. So these are just some things that I thought were worth mentioning, because Janet is lying about inflation. Therefore, we should expect something a lot more higher in number wise moving forward. Because if Janet Yellen, of course they didn't miss it. They deliberately miscalculate things to fudge their own numbers. But the fact that they're admitting that she lied and Jamie's warning about the economic hurricane that's coming, it just spells trouble. And so let me just touch on this. What's happening here? What Jamie was referring to. So Fed starts an experiment, and so it's just these headlines, these buzzwords, man. They're comical, because end of last year, beginning of this year, I was talking about the 3-part experiment that the Federal Reserve is going to call themselves trying to do: raise rates, stop accommodative purchases, and shrink their balance sheets. Those 3 things have never been done in modern history, and they're doing them all within this 6-month time frame, or trying to do them within 6-month time frames. And so the way that they've attempted to structure this is that it's going to be a slow and progressive build up to letting things roll off and stop purchasing so-called assets, but it's only an asset if it's performing. But if it's not performing, because the banks are not able to repay back those loans that they were given, then not quite sure what's going on here. But here's just a little calendar of what they're talking about. The Fed's June maturity says 4 Treasury securities held by the Fed are maturing in June, to totaling $48.25 billion, leaving $12.8 billion over the 30-day runoff cap to be reinvested. So here's the time frame: the 15th, the 30th of June, whatever. Here's all the maturity that they're letting expire, and therefore that's cash that will be woof, poof, poof, just disappeared in thin air. Same way it was created, it just goes poof. So we'll see how this goes. But the whole point of this was, we've had something like this before, and it didn't go too well. So here is the credit and liquidity programs of the balance sheet on the Federal Reserve. And so as of right now, we are $8.914 trillion. And everything here, everything from this side up is all the pandemic response. And so just to go back here to the time frame we were talking about, was it 5 years ago? Their initial attempt of unwinding, trying to dial back on their accommodative policies because the economy was recovering. It was the whole, so this is the whole, when Trump got in, this was the whole recovery narrative. Recovery, with the economy's recovering. So they were dialing back. They got from what looks like 4.45 trillion down to 3.8. So maybe 1.7 or so, whatever, worth of liabilities rolled off. And of course, we know September 2019, something broke. And that was the whole the repo market contagion that flew under the radar, billions per month. And then the pandemic hit to cover that up as well. And so will it work this time? Unfortunately, if history is a good teacher to learn from, it won't happen successfully. Therefore, when Jamie warns about bracing for this economic hurricane that's already here, already unfolding, I'm sure we should take him at his word. So that's just something on the surface. But let's keep it moving. Here's some more information I thought I'll bring to your attention. And so it looks like the oil group OPEC Plus. So OPEC Plus is the extension of OPEC. OPEC is the Middle Eastern nations, and then OPEC Plus incorporates some of the other oil magnates, which is Russia, Venezuela. Let me see, and a couple more I can't think about offhand. But I'm not sure if this is something we're paying attention to or not, or just is hot air. Don't know. But the fact they're considering suspending Russia from the supply deal, I think is more hot air than anything else. But I thought it was worth bringing to your attention just because it's being mentioned as something that is a possibility. And of course, we know that right now the Russian ruble's fairly strong compared to other currencies. And so therefore, the Russia's plan in using their own currency to help protect and preserve their own financial future seems to be working quite well. So I don't see OPEC deciding to disrupt that just because Russia probably could go at it alone if they wanted to, just because they have more than enough resources to hold it down through this economic hurricane that's coming and probably not be phased. And so it just says the news report on Tuesday comes at a time when the non-OPEC leaders, Russia, a major player in global energy markets, faces a barrage of Western sanctions and a partial oil ban from the European Union in the wake of the onslaught. So between the Western pressure, it's probably good to say that the Western puppets decided to communicate with the OPEC nations and trying to put some pressure on them to come up with that narrative, come up with the fake narrative saying that you guys should reconsider or put out a press release saying that, Russia is about to be removed. But we all know that we need their energy. So just, give us some good headline and we'll run with it on our Western media and make it seem as if like the sanctions are really working. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of stuff I think this is. Anyway, whoever has the most resources, they call the shots ultimately. And then here's another one that is quite interesting because to me, it's just a matter of time for something takes place. And that's just more escalation in this whole global, distraction stuff that we're experiencing. It says China carries out a, quote, readiness patrol near Taiwan as Taipei touts growing cooperation with Washington. And so between Washington sending Ukraine new ammunition and weaponry and missile launchers and just, continually flooding Ukraine with support, at the same time, I haven't really seen much, we don't get the same type of media coverage about what's happening on the ground in Ukraine the way that we did in Iraq and the Middle East, where there was, a bombardment of videos and video footage of disaster, just devastation occurring in that region. Whereas in Ukraine, we get, some older pictures of buildings that are probably already burnt down. And yeah, we're just being lied to all the way around. Like they're literally just smuggling real world goods and currency through Ukraine to God only knows where. But literally, they're trying to paper over Ukraine and make it seem like, they're providing aid and helping. But that stuff is going somewhere, but it's not to no war, in my opinion. Could be wrong. Hope I'm wrong, but hey, call it is, call it what it is. And then on another note here, while the West is distracted, several European nations are being cut off from the world energy from Russia. And so it looks like because they're not paying in rubles, they just, there's going to be a mighty cold winter for a lot of European nations. So this right here probably plays into the idea that between now and next winter, there's going to be some type of ultimate distraction to cover this up. Because with EU deciding to shift their sanctions and not participate in the Russian energy arrangements, paying in rubles, I don't think the European nations and the political figures will be willing to take the blunt force of disruption that will come if there's no energy flowing through those pipes to heat homes come November, December of next year. And so between now and then, there might be an event to blame something on Russia, or perhaps we might, mark my words, like I wouldn't be surprised if before the November midterms, this China, Taiwan stuff jumps off to where it gives the European nations, EU, NATO, as well as, here in the U.S., it gives them a higher level of an excuse as to why they need to support Taiwan, why they need an additional $80 billion a month, 40 to Ukraine and 40 to Taiwan. We're going to send ammunition to Ukraine. We're going to back NATO. We're going to send, the U.S. military, because Biden is out here trying to sell the idea that we're going to support Taiwan no matter what. And so we're going to send, our military to help support Taiwan. It's always being painted as we're coming in to assist and to like not fight their battles, but then again, we are fighting their battles. But the American taxpayer it's not really the American taxpayer, because at this point, every taxpayer know that you're not getting nothing back. So it's not really the taxpayer. It's more so like it's like the monopoly game. Literally, like they're just legally counterfeiting and just sending funds places. And of course, it's going to come back to haunt every American citizen. But then again, the same instrument they're using, the Federal Reserve note, is the same entity that the world also uses as a savings mechanism, as well as an instrument to spend. So no matter what, it's going to be very problematic. And that's just how things go. Tony B, I see what you say. He says the money never go to the recipient. Instead, they get our old junk. The money goes to the Pentagon to pay NGO. Then the Pentagon will ask for $1 trillion on the next budget. Nice racket. Yeah, that looks like just a I don't know, just some very suspect activity. But anyway, just keep it moving. So Russia cuts gas off another EU nation. And so it looks like Denmark has become the 5th country to be cut off from Russian natural gas. And so the other countries are Russian energy giants recently suspended gas exports to Bulgaria, Poland, Finland, the Netherlands, and now Denmark. So 5 nations, based upon what we're being told from RT, take it for whatever it's worth. There's 5 countries that will not be getting any extra energy from Russia. And it's good to say all those nations, an overwhelming majority of their energy comes from Russia. So that's going to be very problematic, but it is what it is. And just to get ready to draw down, I thought I would just take a quick glance and see how the markets close for those that tend to pay attention to that, as if the stock market's meant to go up forever. But that's not the case. But just real quick, let me check and see. So it looks like the Dow Jones closed down almost half a point. NASDAQ 100, almost a point. And let me see what else we got. So a lot of red. Italy's, yeah, look at that. It's, the UK, a lot of red. Russia closed in the red, in the green. Interesting. Russia's not doing too bad. They must have, did some funny business with theirs. But let's close looking at just some metals activity real quick. So I like to just see how gold, if gold is a standard, how did gold perform thus far throughout the day? And so let me just look at the 1 day here and see. So it looks like, just based upon the trading pair between gold and a dollar today, gold did fairly well. But of course, look long term, it's been doing even better. So because the fiat currencies themselves are not intended to provide you any long-term protection. Let's check on the Japanese yen real quick. I haven't paid attention to the yen, but it looks like gold has done extremely well today. And the yen up, looks like about 4,000 yen from the lows of early morning. Okay. What other currencies out there real quick? Let me check on the Canadian dollar. Let's just see what we have here. So it looks like the gold has done well against Canadian dollar as well. So all in all, fiat currencies are still failing. And the barometer, the measurement, that people tend to focus on, in the short term, is just for entertainment's sake. Just think long term, 5-10 years. You can't go wrong. Just because the way they're using currencies as weapon nowadays, they'll be creating a lot more. And once the Federal Reserve decides to either backtrack or let this thing come down for a crash landing, think about when they try to rebuild this thing. Because as of right now, the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, and the U.S. government, they know what's going on. They know what they're working towards, and they already have their solution ready. They just need that major event to take place so that the world can recognize that there were some bad actors, or Russia, China, whoever they're going to blame. And then they're going to roll out the solution, the digital dollar, the Federal Reserve digital dollar, and their wallets and all that other stuff that comes with it. So we are right on track for this transition to occur. And based upon the recommendations from Jamie Dimon that he gave us early about bracing for this hurricane, he says you might want to brace for an economic hurricane. The primary, the hurricane itself, within the hurricane, what causes the most damage will be the currency. So when the currencies just go belly up, everything will be repriced, like I just said earlier in my rant, and we'll be able at some point through all this carnage be able to uncover some true price discovery when it comes to real things that we need on a day-to-day basis, as far as your food, energy, metals, and everything, and the like things that are needed in the real world will definitely be some repricing, because people will eventually have to go get those things, and what you have to pay when you go to get it is going to be the true measure of what it's worth. It won't be no fraudulent markets. I don't think all these mechanisms that are ran by the banks will be operational, because I don't think China and Russia are going to go along with that anymore. So this next repricing mechanism will lead China and Russia to also get into the game as far as wanting to reprice some things beyond using a USD as a symbol. So it's going to be a great reshuffling of the deck. That's all there is. So anyway, do the best you can. Protect yourself in ways that is practical, such as preserving yourself in metals, as well as other things if you believe that they're meant to flourish in the future. You know what I'm saying? Do you. But also, you need food, you need water, you need shelter, you need energy, you need ammunition. So, because we're going to go through an adjusting period. But God is still on the throne. It's going to be good because, hey, this type of stuff has happened before. We've had famines of biblical proportion before, and we've always seemed as a human race to make it through some things. But once again, there will be a large loss of life, but that's a part of the territory. That's why you want to make sure that you're in good standing with your heavenly government, so that you can transition without any hiccups into eternal life that only comes through Jesus Christ. All right, people, that's all she wrote for this news update. Hope you guys found some value out of this information here. I am enjoying being able to connect for a short, concise, jam-packed rants or two. And then I'd love to get your feedback later on tonight. So if you have not already, as I always say, give your boy a dap, hitting that thumbs up button. Ladies, give your boy a hug if you don't mind with that thumbs up button. If you're new, subscribe, and then I will see you tonight, 9:30. Peace.
Next recession will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
If you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.